Welcome back to episode 2 of Flipping the Switch, where we explore the digital landscape in an effort for more discernment and responsibility. My name is Score. This is Greg, and
Peace,
today,
peace.
today we actually have one of our crew members. This is definitely gonna be a familiar face, Miss Micaiah. She's a
Woohoo!
Micaiah's in the building. You know what I'm saying? She's a scholar herself on some of these topics. You want to introduce yourself? Tell the viewers about
Yeah.
yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Micaiah. A little bit about my background. I graduated from North Carolina A&T, and my discipline was computer technology and user experience. And now I'm at the Joint School of Nanoscience and Nanoengineering, continuing that love and passion for computers and design.
Yeah, so she know a thing or two. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, we wanted to bring her on because today we'll be talking about AR and VR, MR, XR, IR, all of these different R's, you know what I'm saying? Mixing up reality and whatnot, and we just felt like she had a lot of great things to contribute. So yeah, we just gonna get right into it, right? So AR, like I said, AR, VR, MR, XR, IR, what the hell am I talking about? So we want to go ahead and define some of these words so we can all kind of be walking on common ground. But we also want to kind of offer our own sentiment on the definitions of some of these words. So we're gonna start off with AR. AR stands for AR stands for augmented reality. It is essentially, hold let me see. I'm gonna go ahead and Google the word. I ain't have it all the way just readily available. Alright, so augmented reality is an interactive experience that combines the real world and computer generated 3D content. Matter of fact, I don't think I need to define it. I don't think I need to Google these definitions. I think we pretty much got the concepts down pat. Yeah,
Yeah.
so basically, right, so virtual reality is essentially creating an entire um three-dimensional reality through video, right? Or yeah, some type of, graphics. Essentially, we experience it as a video, you know, and you're fully immersed into it. It's fully generated. Um, AR, which is augmented reality, is basically like creating little holograms into the actual reality that you see. So again, like, if you have a tree, AR would be like something identifying the tree as what it is or whatever in between, and you could actually see little creations being made. MR, the M stands for mixed reality, which is basically a mix of those two. IR is immersive reality, which is just probably like, it's really just another word for MR essentially. And then lastly, XR is also just called extensive reality. So basically XR, MR, and IR are like, the,
Cousins.
yeah, they all cousins, and they all kind of capture just the fact that we mixing in a lot of this digital stuff into the reality. We switching up how reality is perceived. Anybody wanted to chime in on, those definitions and explanations? You know?
Wait,
No, hold it up.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I think you had good definitions for it, honestly.
Okay.
Um, I guess I would add in it's like a recreation, like VR is a recreation of your environment. So, um, and AR is kind of like an overlay on an existing environment that you're already in. So just like you said, if you were looking at a tree, you could look at it in AR, it could define structure of that tree with this kind of like hologram or um, interface that you might be able to look at. And recreating your environment would be like, oh, well, now this tree is now a virtual 3D model.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I like that word overlay. You know what I'm saying? Like augmented reality is an overlay into this reality. Yeah. Cool. I like that. Um, yeah, so when do y'all feel like y'all were first exposed to like the concepts of AR and VR?
So I think the first time I was exposed to it, I was in like sixth, seventh grade. We were on a college tour actually,
Mm-hmm.
and they were showing us the game testing part of like their department, and that was the first time I had ever seen like a screen that wraps around you. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm,
they had that screen that wrapped around you, and you could really see in your peripheral, and the game was like super realistic. Like now, mind you, this is like 15 years ago.
mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Something like that. So it's like, well, probably like 11, whatever. You know, it was a pretty long time ago for them to even have these types of things. So when I seen it, I was like, whoa, like I didn't even know this is like really possible. And in terms of actually like getting inside the metaverse kind of space where it's like you really in immersed, kind of like
Mm-hmm.
you were saying, the immersive reality. That was more so like 10th grade when I
10th
when they
grade.
first started feeling that type of stuff.
Okay. Sure.
I think the first time the concept of like AR came up for me was like watching Iron Man,
Mm.
and yeah, like in his
Yeah,
suit, he
yeah,
could
Yeah.
see all like he could see like all of his what's going on with him internally, but then also like all these different physics that was going on outside
Mm-hmm.
of him. So yeah, I think that's like the first time I got that concept.
Right.
And then like the first time I actually experienced it was, I don't know, it was like an arcade or something. It was like a cave kind of system where there's like a 3D projection around kind of like what you were saying, like around the whole dome, like you're in like a dome.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and that's the first time like I seen, the screens be able to wrap around you and it make it seem like you're actually in that space.
Cool. Cool. Okay. Dang, I asked that question, and I don't even know if I know the answer. I mean,
Yeah.
I like how you said. I think the first, as far as exposure to it, it's probably through like movies, TV shows.
Yeah.
You know, Ned's Declassified is usually what sticks out to me with Cookie and his glasses
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Um, or like I feel like I always think of like what is it, Cyclops. It's one of
oh yeah,
those.
Cyborg
Well, you got
from Teen
Cyborg
Titans.
from Teen Titans, but I'm
Yeah,
Mhm.
thinking of like it was like a dude with like it was like one eye. I mean, he had the it was like he was red. I think.
You said red with a green eye?
Nah, it wasn't a green eye. I don't
Okay.
know. I don't want to go too deep into that. But
Okay.
it was some character,
Mhm.
and like you said, like you're able to scan your environment, and kind of gather the information, the data. Even when they do like the heat sensors and stuff like that. So that's kind of like how I was exposed to it. As far as actual interactions, hmm, I can't necessarily think. The only thing I can think of at this point would be when Snapchat started to do like the little,
Mhm.
like it was like some type of little game they was doing, like some type of Pokemon hunt
oh
type
yeah,
Yeah.
game.
Pokemon
Yeah.
Go.
Pokemon Go is good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that was the first time I was like, dang, you could really do that. Um, But yeah, I think that's what comes to mind for me. That's what I got on that. Um, and so I guess that does kind of take us to like, how AR and VR is utilized, right? Because
Mhm.
like essentially, I don't know, do I want to? Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about how it's utilized, right? So I mean, essentially, you need either a headset or you need to use a mobile device in order to, I guess, experience the augmentation of the reality, or being immersed into a digital version of reality, So over the years, they've built different headsets, or they've been building the technology. And actually, you'd be surprised how long they've actually been doing a lot of this technology. So I'll start with a little history lesson. I'm gonna get into a little history lesson, right? So back in the 1850s, sometime around that time, when they was coming out with cameras, you feel me? They had obviously they figured out how to take a two-dimensional picture, but common sense will tell you what ain't. Like, we could take a two-dimensional picture, like, let me try to really create a three-dimensional version, because you're trying to capture exactly what reality is looking like. That's the whole point of a picture. So around the same time they created the camera, there's a dude named Isaac Wheatstone who actually created the stereoscope in like the 1850s. And essentially what he was trying to figure out is like, how can I use these images, which are two-dimensional, right? It's just X and Y. They're two-dimensional. And how can I use that to then create 3D objects? How can I use the different angles of the pictures and everything in between? And so he created what is called a stereoscope to kind of create that effect. Fast forward into the well, actually it was a dude right after him called Oliver Wendell Holmes, who actually created the like a stereoscope. So like I said, Wheatstone creates like a stereoscope, but then Wendell Holmes starts to actually try to create a device or a headset so that we could actually use it. But these devices was like super heavy. We might have images on here to show y'all like what some of these things look like, you know, but they kind of followed each other, you know, at the inception of this idea. Then fast forward,
So like just to be clear, so the
okay.
stereoscope was a device that took like pictures and made them 3D, or it just made your vision like what you see. Like
Nah,
what?
it was like trying to create a three-dimensional image. Like that's all he was
Oh,
trying to do is create a three-dimensional image.
so it was like I see. I see. Like the picture kind of explains it very
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
actually.
So
These are more modern, but like
yeah,
Yeah, it's kind
like
of like
it's almost like when you go to, if you've ever been to the eyeglass doctor, I guess I don't know what percentage of people
nah, not
actually
even.
have it, but it's just this apparatus that is basically creating a three-dimensional image.
Yeah, cause like y'all ever seen that it's not a well, it's kind of like a camera, but like it's like a bunch of pictures that's loaded up, and like you put it on your eyes, kind of like you do the VR headset, and then you can flip through pictures. Y'all know what
I
I'm
know what you're
talking about?
talking
Yeah,
about,
I
but
know exactly what you're
I
talking
can't
about.
Yeah, I can't remember the
remember.
name of it, but it's that same kind of concept. If y'all want to like grasp it, like you're
Yeah,
kind of immersed within that one image.
Yeah, I think the difference between that. Oh, sorry. I think the difference between that is like that it was showing you one image,
Yeah.
and the stereoscope is showing you two images
right.
simultaneously at one time.
Because the stereoscope is trying to use like the mechanisms of the eye, or
Mhm.
play on the mechanisms of the eye in order to create this three-dimensional image.
Yeah.
So I'm taking different two-dimensional, I'm taking different images, placing them at different angles within this device,
Mhm.
and then that should give you, I guess, the illusion that it is indeed 3D.
Yeah.
So again, this is the 1850s, right? Like, you know, you know what I'm saying? So, and then fast forward 100 years later in the 19 or 60s, so 110 technically. But it's a dude named Ivan Sutherland, or Even Sutherland, who came up with the actual first AR headset. So now he's actually creating like these little I guess images, like you said, that are overlaid, on reality. So, this like so, when we're talking about a lot of these technologies, I always think it's real cool, like how we got to this point, how the storyline has kind of played out, because we think of a lot of this stuff as like, oh, like somebody cooked this up in their lab, or they thought about it today, and then in 2, 3 years, like here's this final product. When it's like, nah, like it's really been in the works for a while, and it just took the right circumstance for it to all, get all cool and whatnot.
They thought they was wizards back then.
Yeah, you know what
Burn
I'm
them
saying?
at the stake.
Right, yeah, yeah. You feel me? Just like what? Like you can create a 3-dimensional image? I don't know, bro. Like you doing a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Too close to God.
Right,
Right,
yeah.
right.
And so right now we're in the 1960s. So Buddy creates the AR headset, the first one. Now this headset was really heavy, like extremely heavy to the point where it can kill you if it falls on you. That's why they
Whoa,
called it.
what's the?
Yeah, that's why they called it the Sword of Damocles. That's what they called it. So it wasn't. Yeah, like, cause their whole thing is, can I just pull the concept off? Like, you know how like if you was to do your own engineering project right now, you gonna try to jimmy rig it, you gonna try to put tape on it or whatever just to make it work. Like that's really what we working with right now. You know what I'm saying? Like they didn't have computer chips or whatever to make it all sleek and compact. They were just like, bro, I bet you I could do it. And so that usually came with a price of something that's heavy and could kill you.
Sound like the price was your life.
Right, yeah. I mean, you
like,
feel
bro,
me?
what?
They was dying behind their
Hate to
ideas.
be a guinea pig during that time.
Man, they probably was paying top dollar back then for you to be, part of their experiments, and they serve. Or we ain't gonna get into all that because that could go a couple different ways. But yeah, so fast forward to the 1980s. NASA actually created a virtual interface environment workstation, also called View. That was an acronym for View. And essentially this was like a training program, the VR training program, where they're being immersed and then they're learning how to do the different workstations. I thought you wanted to say something.
Oh, I was gonna say something when you finish.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say to that's like interesting now because now they have like space station simulations for the Oculus VR. Like I have it on my Oculus and it's really fun. It's very interesting to be able to be there like just from your home where it's coming from, like, oh, now it started at NASA, but now you could be in your house training to be an astronaut. Very interesting.
Right.
And another thing I would add to that, it's really an arm workout, y'all. So like that's the other aspect that you kind of don't think about when you see all these people in these space movies or whatever. Yeah, like you really gotta climb everywhere you're going because there's no gravity. So it's really like a whole lot of movement with your
Wait.
arm.
Because I've never actually like used like an Oculus or any kind of headset. You're saying it's a real workout.
Yeah.
So if I'm climbing on something, like what exactly am I grabbing on?
Like the size of the wall. Like you know how like in a rocket or whatever, in the spaceship. You see them, you see them have handles like on the sides because they know they're gonna be in 0G. So it's like handles on the side, and that's how you move around. Like if you aren't holding on to that, then you're just free flowing through the space.
But then in this reality though, like if I got the headset on, I'm still in this reality. So like, what does that translate? Like, what am I grabbing in this space that is connected to that
Oh
visual?
no. So you have you have like remote controls in your hand. So each hand has a remote control, and that's what you're moving. Like you're moving your remote control hand.
To grab a handle, you squeeze the remote control. So there is that, like, you have a little bit of force that you're applying to the remote. That's like, engaging your muscle.
And you can also, that's the other thing when you're in these headsets, you create the parameters for the space. So that's why you don't necessarily have to run into stuff in real life. Like, for example, the table's right here, I can say, okay, this is the only amount of space, you know what I'm saying, that I'm going to use. So the game will kind of adjust to how much space you have.
Cool. Okay. So I'm learning a lot of new stuff as well, and I got more questions. We're gonna get into a lot more of all of this, you know, because yeah, I still haven't all the way figured out how a lot of this stuff works. I got some more questions. But yeah, so NASA started that type of stuff in the 1980s. Again, this is before pretty much all of us were born. You know what I'm saying? So like, again, I just want to reiterate, like this technology has been in the works, for a while now, but so when they created this, view virtual interface environment workstation, it wasn't accessible to the public. And I think that's another important um, thing as well to know about a majority of technology is that they're always built in-house for business purposes or even like for military applications. That's for the longest how like a lot of our advancements were occurring, you know. And so by the time they're released to the public, like they done already got whatever money they were trying to get out of it. Now I guess at this point in the evolution of technology and electronics and everything digital, now we as individuals can be at the forefront of a lot of whatever is cutting edge. But prior, and even till this day, a lot of this stuff was still made in-house, you know like I said, by businesses and stuff like that. So again, they was doing that in the 1980s. Fast forward throughout the 2000s, we had 3D movies and those 3D glasses, right? So you had the glasses, one was red, one was blue, or one eye was red, one eye was blue. And then when you watch, you put it on at the theater, it creates this three-dimensional experience, And then finally we have in 2012, the Oculus Swift comes out, which allows VR to be used by the average individual or the average individual with some money. Because I think they was going for like a few bands at the time, or a few $1,000, you know, a few bands at the time. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much the little history lesson. You know what I'm saying? It started out in the 1850s. A dude just tried to create a three-dimensional image with a device, and then fast forward, here we are with headsets.
I would just like to say, them 3D movies wasn't always hitting the way they were supposed to hit. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes they got the technology right and the movie felt good, and other times I thought it was a huge waste of time, actually. So I
Yeah,
mean,
and I
yeah,
think that kind of you bringing up a good point because I think that takes us into like just the science of how all of this works and what makes it pop because I found out that like AR and VR hasn't really taken off yet. A lot of people haven't adopted it for a couple reasons. Um, One, it keeps being expensive, but to your point, it's like nobody wants to experience something that's not legit. Like if you're gonna tell me, okay, it's AR, VR, like it gotta really be that. I don't want to see no lag time. You know, I don't want it to. I don't want to get motion sickness. Like I want it to really be the full thing. Yeah. And it takes a lot of computer power. Takes a lot of bandwidth, resolution. You know, a lot of calculations. Yeah. Everything's in between. But yeah, like the movies and the 3D glasses was a little bit of a letdown. A lot of times. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That makes me think of something that I proposed to someone who basically takes like agricultural data for farmers and allows them to like monitor their crops and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I proposed that they connected this data to a VR environment so that the farmers don't have to actually go acres into their crops to be able to see visually and the environment of their crops and just be able to stand there. And they were like, yeah, I don't think the farmers are going to adopt that because they like their whole life is their crop. They wouldn't be able to touch their dirt. They wouldn't be able to like feel their plant. Like they want to be with their food, their whatever they're growing. They want to be with what they're growing. And that really humbled me a little bit to think about like where VR is going, but like also some of the compliances like in policies like that we want to put behind it so that people still have the autonomy to be like, yeah, no, this is not going to work for this industry or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like you bringing up a good philosophical question. Like, I know we all kind of have our own judgments when we first get introduced to the idea, but I feel like the more you experience AR and VR, the more you're able to discern, like, kind of like you saying, what is worth putting in VR and having that being indistinguishable from real life, and what's actually like, man, it don't matter how good you get it, a pool ain't gonna hit the same unless I'm really in the pool. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, what do y'all think about that? What do y'all feel is like some of the stuff that, like, no matter how good AR VR get, y'all feel like it don't matter? Like, we should really just be sticking with what's real life. Because either way, real life is what we're really supposed to be living. So,
Yeah.
take all this data with a grain of salt.
Yeah. I think that's like the $1 million question with all this. You know what I'm saying? I feel like for me, uh first, if I were to take a step back, I would say that I think all of this technology in general challenges me to know myself a lot more. To know, because at the core, it every like there's nothing new under the sun. You know, I kind of brought that up a little bit in the first episode. But all of these gadgets are essentially replicas or extensions of things that we can already do. You know, like I was looking up how, in order to the lenses essentially that create these virtual and augmented realities are basically shaped like eyeballs, and even the amount of distance between the two eyeballs is the same, or the amount of distance between the two lenses is the same as your eyeballs, you know, or AI is basically built on neural networks, which is your mind. So I think for me, it's like, okay, well, what system within my own physical body is this technology based off of, and how well do I know it and use it for myself? Like if I'm gonna get some AI that's like generating images, how well can I visualize stuff on my own? You feel me? And then I feel like from there, it's like, well, if the computer is better at it than me, then maybe I need to take some time to really get better at it. And that just depends on, like, what the technology is, because the trade-off is the convenience of it. So to kind of bring it back and answer your question, specifically the AR VR, I just feel like I'm always want to see what exactly am I trying to enhance. Once I'm settled into this reality, once I really know how green the grass is, how blue the sky is, how fresh the air is, I'm grounded in it, then it's like, okay, let's switch it up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Then I might, because I've never actually worn a AR headset or VR headset before. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I think the other thing for me, though, is also how because a big part of the headsets is that it's interacting with all of your sensory mechanisms, right? Yes. So we know it's interacting with your eyesight or your vision, then it's also interacting with your ears, your eardrums, but then also haptics is basically touch, right? So are these devices compatible with my physical body? You know, like if I'm walking around with a phone in my pocket that's like having harmful radiation, yeah, and today, today it might not have an issue, but 10, 15 years down the line, now everybody got, a little rash or
Yeah,
something from something being in their
yeah.
pocket. So I want to
That
be,
melothelioma
yeah,
commercial.
you know what I'm
Like,
saying? Yeah, I don't want to be one of the, I don't want
if
to be
you
in that
or a
number.
loved one had an iPhone 14 in their pocket.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are just some of the things, but I do think like at the same time it provides like we've been talking about unprecedented opportunities to explore things at a certain rate. I mean, in a unique way. So I just want to be mindful of both sides of it, really. You know, and I don't know. I don't think I can just at this very moment say what I a hard no to as far as what I wouldn't experience, just because I feel like there's just so much out there that I probably haven't thought of, you know. But um, I think that's just how I will approach it. You feel me? So it just kind of like size the whole situation up first.
Yeah, I definitely agree with like being grounded in this reality and in your physical natural reality for sure. I think a lot of people reference like Ready Player One as
Hmm.
like their apocalyptic view of
Yeah.
people like sacrificing their physical reality, their space. They're not even like, they're not decorating their homes anymore. They're not
Hmm.
creating aesthetically pleasing things to them now because they can just jump into the VR and have
Hmm.
everything that they ever wanted in this digital space.
Hmm.
Um, so in terms of like what I wouldn't do in VR or AR, I would say kind of I'm not very sure honestly, because it just depends. I feel like being intimate with this reality is just, it has to come first. And then you can go and hop into that second thing. Because I would say like, oh, meditation for me is something that, I feel very grounded here in this reality.
Hmm.
But you can also do meditative therapies in VR, and can, you could, like you were saying, the visual that you do in your mind. So let's
Hmm.
say if you could replicate this visual thing that you have in your mind and take it into VR, um, during this time that you had this meditative state, then it could definitely like fully more immerse you into something that you already had inside of you.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think vice versa. Like you could use AR, VR to kind of like, oh, like I got this idea, but I can't although it's on the tip of my tongue.
Hmm.
Then
Yeah.
you go let it create something or you go experience something and then bam, now you taking it back into your meditations or, whatever you wanted in this reality, you know?
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that was a great point,
Yeah.
you know?
In hindsight, I don't know. I don't know what I wouldn't do in VR just yet.
Yeah. What about you?
Um, oh, for me, I definitely feel like basic stuff like grounding, meditating. Well, I don't know. Y'all just brought me back into the meditation. I don't know, man. I think we do just gotta, like you were saying, ground ourselves in this reality first, and
Hmm.
then really the world's your oyster.
Yeah,
The imagination is your oyster, actually.
exactly.
So I definitely see that. But I know that you had some notes that you kind of wanted, some topics you wanted to get into. So I was gonna let you kind of have the floor.
Oh, oh. I wasn't prepared for
Oh,
taking
you're
the
not.
floor.
Nah, it's cool.
Oh,
It's
I
cool.
mean,
It's
it's
cool
cool.
because I mean we can get more into the science of exactly how this is all working. I think that's what
Yeah.
allows us to even be more like informed about how we want to use it. Because I think I'm assuming like going back to what Makai did say about the farmers, for example, just kind of holding off. It's like, well, here's the frequencies of whatever this AI technology gonna be used for, or whatever the AI technology is. Is it harmonious with the plants? Because like you said, they want to be intimate with the plane. They don't want these machines, you know. And so I guess I kind of do want to just get into the science of it in general, you know, because at the basis, again, you have a headset or I guess a mobile device in which you're either overlaying or, you know, fully immersing yourself into some type of digital reality, some type of holographic reality. Essentially, you're plugging in your senses, all five of your, well, I guess not always all five of your senses, but, you know, I know a lot of the headsets are mainly just the three senses, what you see, what you hear, and then what you feel. Now, once they get into your taste and the smell, you know, go like you said, girl. I
they
don't
do that.
know.
They do that. I forgot the name of the place. Dang, but it is like a 5D experience where it's like you are in VR, but you are in this enclosed space. They have uh like a little bit of water when it's raining in there, or it has you know, different smells, wind, stuff like that. So they have like these 5D type
You
of
know what?
experiences.
Sphere in Las Vegas. Oh my bad. I didn't. Were you talking about the Sphere in Las Vegas? Oh, okay.
Nah, you know what that makes me think of though, because I actually have thought of two things now. Well, you know, earlier when you asked about, or when I asked about when we first experienced it, but I remember like one of the Shrek movies, they had an experience where like it was already 3D, but then like there was moments where like if he sneezed, I guess they spritz some water on you or something like that. So they was trying to create like that immersive reality. But then I also remember there was some video game. Like I remember going to an arcade when we would go to Cali, and it was like that little roller coaster ride. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
all the wind coming at you. And
Yeah. And so it wasn't really a headset, but it was like you go into the whole machine and now you feel like you're really, you know, riding the roller coaster and going through that whole experience. You know, so I guess I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah. To add to, I guess, like the science behind it and how it kind of works, like neurologically, your brain doesn't know the difference between a um a real sensory stimuli and the virtual sensory stimuli.
That's
So
huge.
yeah. So like one of the games that are on the Oculus now.
Say that one more time. Say that
So
one
like
more time.
neurologically, your brain doesn't know the difference between a real sensory stimuli and a virtual sensory stimuli.
So okay,
I
let's
wanted to
kind of
give an
unpack that.
example. Yeah, I
Oh,
wanted to
okay,
give an
go ahead.
example. So like one of the games on Oculus right now is like walking on a beam at the top of a building, like the top of a skyscraper building.
Oh damn.
Yeah. So like people are, and when you see the reactions of people, they're like, I'm up here for real. Like, I'm about to fall off this building. Even when somebody's pushed, like you're fully in there, somebody's, you know, here, your real reality, and pushes you, you think you falling, you think you dying. Like, yeah.
That's crazy. That's actually interesting how the body works like that. Cause like even thinking about that game, it did kind of make like the little butterflies in my stomach was like, oh, like you know, just to even visualize it. And that's funny too because you know, really flashbacks work the same way. Like if you flashing back, like you know, you can't stop thinking about this one event, you know, or you know, people that experience some type of trauma or whatever. It's like your body really does not know that you're no longer in the moment. Like just the physical body, the type of hormones you start releasing in your body, and the entire state of your being, it doesn't really know the difference. You know, so I think that's an interesting point because again, you know, you know, these technologies kind of expose just like how we work as individuals, you know. So I thought that was pretty cool. You know what I mean? And I mean, I guess it's not, you know, I don't want to limit to trauma. You know, I feel like it's the same way with as far as like bringing yourself joy, you know, or even like, I guess really one of the best ways is like sex. Like, once you start going flashbacks, your body gonna start, what I'm saying, doing a lot of those reactions. But even like just your favorite moments, your favorite meals and everything in between, like your body is literally gonna not know the difference and then start creating different reactions based on that. And I think, that's something you probably want to take advantage of.
Yeah, like even while you was talking about that, I was thinking about Ratatouille when he made the Ratatouille for the health inspector or whatever, and it literally brought him back to his childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Like he finished the plate just like he did when he was a little kid, and it brought so much joy to his eyes. So it's like it's so many opportunities. Like even thinking about seeing your loved ones, like your grandma, your grandpa, seeing like your ancestors,
Mm-hmm.
being at the place where you had your first kiss, you had your wedding. You know what I'm saying? Like all of these different experiences, once you put them in virtual reality, are gonna be like gold. Like it's gonna, you know how like we be like, dang, I should have recorded that. Like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
should have. Like you really gonna be able to have some incredible replay
Right.
when you looking back on your memories.
Mm.
But I did want to touch a little bit more on the science of what's actually going on.
Do your thing.
So, first thing that I wanted to kind of get into is the EEG sensors that they're starting to put into these different AR VR applications. So I'm going to say this slowly because it's kind of a difficult word as to what the EEG stands for. So it's an encephalography. Yeah, electroencephalography.
That's a whole bunch of
Yeah,
word mush
you know
right
what I'm
there.
saying, but we
Hold
just
on, let me
know.
see. Electroencephalography.
Yeah, it's
I'm
But they
glad I
could have
know
they
the
could have described it a
you know
little
what I'm
better.
saying. That was such a
But they
difficult
ain't gonna say
I'm
word.
glad
the
I know the name, but I'm gonna say EG.
You know what I'm saying?
right,
Everybody's gonna say
yeah.
EEG. But if you
EEG.
never heard of EEG, it's basically monitoring your brain waves. So I'm not gonna go too deep into all the different brain waves, but it's just like the electromagnetic spectrum, it's just different waves of energy. So there's the theta, the beta, the alpha, and I'm not going to go too deep into what they are, but just in general, understand that those brain waves indicate different activities. So what does it look like? That's changing every day. So like usually a EEG is something you see in a hospital or some type of medical application, and it's like a brain cap, like a bonnet. You know what I'm saying? It's just like a bonnet with like little sensors. Y'all ever seen somebody that had a bunch of white dots all around their head? You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? That's what an
Like
EEG
when
looks
you
like.
really hooked up in the hospital, they got it all. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically what an EEG is. It's just something that's monitoring your brain waves. So, and they use that just in terms of like, for example, if you're frightened, you might have theta waves that are more
Right.
present than
Okay.
the beta waves. Or if you're feeling love or happiness or something like that, then you may
Mm-hmm.
have more alpha waves. So it's just that general concept that I wanted to introduce.
EEG sensor. So essentially, what they're able to do is map emotions
Not just emotions and thoughts.
and thoughts
Yeah,
to
thoughts
certain
and emotions.
frequencies.
Exactly.
Certain mathematical frequencies, right? So they can really calculate what you thinking and what you feeling based on what's being emitted from your brain.
Yeah,
Cool.
and that's just one.
That's
So
just one, and
now,
that's just one.
so
That's
now
just
we
the
get in this
that
guy.
cursive, whatever amount of cursive they put into that one.
Nah, for real, because they really made that word seem so much more difficult than it
Yeah,
is.
yeah. He might have you could just get cussed out by a word like that. You don't know what that word just came with, but we listening. That was one EEG.
So the other thing they usually call it an EKG, even though the thing in the middle is really a C word. So that's an electrocardiograph. And that's,
Okay. I know
everybody,
that's the heart.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Everybody
that's
heard that
cardio.
buzzword. But yeah,
Yeah.
that
Okay.
measures the heart's electrical activity.
Got you.
So that can help monitor like excitement, stress levels, and basically just like the brain waves give a reading on the experience that you're having on a physiological level. You know what I'm saying? So if you're feeling like just like how you were saying with the beam walking game, you'll see an elevated heart rate because people are more stressed, they're more fearful of dying, and you kind of see even when they fall off how that stress response changes.
Okay.
So there's that, and then you also have the EMG sensors, which is electromyography. So that's basically detecting muscle activity.
Okay.
So just like how we were saying the astronaut game was an arm workout, you can see like how much activity and how much muscle movement it takes for y'all to have the control of the avatars and the virtual objects that you're trying to manipulate.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that one. So far we've done the EEG, the EKG, and the EMG.
So encephalography. So okay, because I heard like the little keyword in the middle. All right. The E is basically the brain, which is encephalography. Boy, that's a hell of a word. But
Yeah,
then the
encephalography.
EKG, which is really ECG, is
Yeah,
cardio, which is the heart, and then EMG is which is muscle.
yeah.
Cool. Electric myography. Okay. Is there more sensors or like we just gonna cover the three big ones?
Yeah, I was just gonna the other one I wanted to get into is the oh I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My fault, y'all. My
Yeah,
fault,
we
y'all.
still figuring out the mic
Yeah, but
situation.
the last thing, yeah, the last thing I was gonna get into is the eye trackers.
Okay.
Yeah, so while not strictly measuring physiological responses, eye trackers help in understanding where a user is looking and how they are reacting to visual stimuli. This can guide content placement and interaction with AR/VR environments. So just like how we was talking about having the environment wrapped around you, you know what I'm saying? If you want to have the most fun immersive game, then you got to know what people really want to look at, like the colors, the shapes, all that good jazz. That's a lot of valuable information. And I know you kind of have something to say about it. I can see the ideas.
Yeah, I mean, the eye tracking and some of these sensors makes me think about the Apple Glass headset that just came out. What was it earlier? Was it earlier this year or like late last year? Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, we could look it up.
Yeah. So like I haven't been able to purchase one. This costs $3,000.
There you go.
That's away money.
But I definitely like as soon as it dropped, I'm looking at all the reviews. I look at all the reviews and everything. And something like the interesting thing to me. So, if you've seen the picture of it, you see that you can like see the person's eyes through the headset. That's not actually the person's eyes that you're seeing. You're basically seeing a reflection or a projection of their eyes. And they're the eye tracking system. So they use these very like nanoscale cameras,
Yeah.
nanoscale cameras, and then eye tracking to project the image of your eyes inversely on the outside, so it looks like it looks like you could see through, and they're looking at the person's actual eyes, but you're not.
What's the purpose of that?
I mean, I feel like it was more just so of like a design decision to allude to the fact that this is a see-through headset instead of like the Oculus. The Oculus well, the Oculus 3 you can, but like the Oculus Quest 2 is just VR. It's not any like the mixed reality version of it or the augmented reality version of it is not as as good as the Apple Glass. Like that's their whole thing is that you can do all of these different AR things. You can have in terms of like productivity, you can have your screens in front of you while you're walking through your house. Like that's their whole thing. They another thing that you can uh do 3D recording. So you wearing your headset, I'm sitting here looking at y'all, and they're making 3D recordings of this of my experience of just sitting here talking to you guys.
But I guess I'm just saying, as far as like being like, if so you got on the headsets, right? And I'm observing you or looking at you have the headset on.
Mm-hmm.
What is the purpose of me being able to see your eyeballs, or them generating a version of your eyeballs?
Yeah, so that's why I was thinking. I think it was a design decision that
And I
kind
mean,
of goes
obviously
into
you
our
didn't
human.
design it, but
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like, what's the, like, bro? I see you got the headsets on, cool, Annie. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think it's the like kind of going back into human computer interactions and kind of the psychology of it, because it's like, oh, this person can't see me if I can't see their eyes. Like if I'm looking, like if you're wearing your headset and you're wearing your headset and you're still able to interact with me, but I can't see your eyes. It looks like, oh, you're not. You're just not
paying
here.
attention.
Yeah.
It's like somebody that's just got shades on inside.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, what you doing with your eyes, bro? Like, what you doing with your eyes? But I feel like, bro, if you got on the headset, you already on some other shit anyway. Like, you're not really here. Like, I mean, I guess
Yeah.
you're here, but like, you got on the headset.
So the example for like recording your memories and stuff, they showed a dad like interacting with his child playing toys, and he's wearing the headset. So then he records that memory. He's able to play it back in 3D and be immersed in it. Obviously, I don't think that it's the best to be playing with a small child with a headset on and trying to be engaging. But I think that's why they tried to make it more
But you're saying the child
acceptable.
had on the headset.
No, the father had on the headset while playing with the child so he could record the memory of playing with his child.
Ah, okay. And you're saying that it's not advised to have a headset on while dealing with the child?
I wouldn't do it. I would say that's just my opinion, but I think that's what Apple was trying to convey, that you can still be engaging with your other people while inside this headset.
Right.
Yeah.
I will say there was an Apple commercial. We may put it in, we may not. But there was a commercial where this guy was having on the Apple glasses, and he got a text. Like, he's within the glasses or whatever. He gets a text from his girlfriend, wife, whatever. And she was like, oh yeah, don't forget to do that list of things I told you to do, like sweep the floor or whatever. So then he just goes into his Roomba app and tells the Roomba, okay, you start cleaning the floor. She said do the dishes. Now he done got an app for the dishes or whatever. And it was just like, wow, like, how much of this is really just going to turn him into a couch potato while also making him efficient? Because he was just sitting there eating in the bed the whole time. And it was like, even though he's a relatively healthy looking human, it's like, clearly if you keep doing this activity, then this could turn you into a person that feel like, I don't really got to leave. You know what I'm saying? So that's the other aspect. Yeah.
Because it's like obviously a healthy person has to be active. You have to actually move your real body. So that's why I say it's a marketing tactic to put someone who looks healthy in this space where they don't have to be active. Because in reality, it probably will not look like that. But it's easier to digest.
I think it's even weird though to try to market it as now you get to do nothing. Like, I think it should just be now I'm freed up. Because again, like, I mean, anything could be automated. You feel me? And when I say automated, I'm not saying because you did it with a computer or some type of gadget. Like, if I'm growing my food every day, if I water it every day, I'm not the one making it grow. The sunlight and all the environmental conditions keeps that thing going. Or if I gotta, like, we're not washing our laundry by hand no more. We're putting it in the launder or the dishwasher. You press start and it's doing its thing. That doesn't mean, you don't see those commercials and see somebody, oh, now I get to sit down and do nothing. No, it's like, all right, bet. I got that task. Boom, I can do something else.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just think it's weird. Like, not weird, but I just, like, that's not what I think the vision should be anyway.
Mm.
Is to become a couch potato.
Yeah.
You know, it's like certain like nah, like it just frees me up to do what's even more important now.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, um, yeah, I think that's pretty cool, and it also made me think of like again, I mean, like we brought up some interesting philosophical questions thus far, and I keep coming back to some of them because it's like okay, when it comes to what I wouldn't want to like replace might be a lot of my memories. So like for example, like I peeped that when I'm recording a moment with my phone, I'm now paying attention more to the recording of the moment than actually being in the moment. If I go to a concert and I really want to record the artist or something, now I have to budget, how much I'm experiencing this situation with just my two eyes and getting the actual memory or just the recording. Because the moments in which, like, because we don't really remember the fact, like, the memory that was generated from recording something because now we're allowing the recording to be the memory. Does that make sense? Like you don't remember, like you know how like all right, like, let's say if I'm at a football game, right, whatever event, but football game, right? If I'm watching the game, I'm gonna remember the plays. Like that's how the memory gets stored.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
But if I record it with my hand right here, I'm not even gonna remember this version of the memory of the experience. I'm only gonna now replace like this moment with whatever I end up capturing on the phone. So I think with like AR and VR, it's gonna create that same dilemma. Like now I got a budget, the real experience versus the virtual or the digital experience. And I don't know if I even want to have those things compete.
Hmm. So do you think it would be better if like you were more free, just like you were saying, being more freed up, like if you were able to just record on your glasses really quick by tapping it and then just going on with the rest of, you know, with the rest of your life with your hands freed up and
Well, you're saying record what?
the memory, just recording in video, whatever.
I mean, I don't know, cause like, why do I like? What is why?
I
You
mean,
know,
for the same reason that you record anything else that's on your phone.
Like when you were talking about it, I was thinking about, well, that's damn near why we like the GoPro, because the GoPro is like it's a helmet thing. Like you can put the GoPro on your helmet. Yeah, you can put the GoPro anywhere, and it's kind of giving you that same feeling of having a recording, but you're also not limiting your own memory. Like you see what you see. So if we go ziplining or whatever, you actually still get to see all that beautiful scenery, blah blah blah.
okay.
But you also get the recording of the scenery too. So
So your question though, Micaiah, was just like if I could just press play record similar to a GoPro, would I do it?
Yeah.
I think it just depends on exactly what I'm capturing. Because now I got to spend energy to even set up and figure out what angle it's gonna capture versus what I'm gonna actually be experiencing. You know, does the presence of this device, this headset or whatever, kind of take away from the experience? Like if I gotta wear a GoPro, is it too heavy? And yeah. So I mean, it's always gonna be super nuanced to the situation itself. But it's like I know I'm just intentional about like okay, like because I'm designed very divinely. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I know that I have enough sensors to capture this moment without it. So it's like I'm only gonna use it if I really feel like either A, it's enhancing like the experience, or really probably the better thing is just like more automating certain things that I feel like is mundane, you know. But at this current moment, I don't really know. I just know that like my memories are precious, you know.
Yeah,
So it's like,
for sure.
especially when it comes to events, like, yeah, I wouldn't be mad at like capturing like even this moment with AR VR. You know what I'm saying? Just because it's like, okay, this is, you know, the show, whatever, whoop. You feel me? But the most precious of memories, like you know, if your first child is being born.
That was exactly what I was thinking about when you
Yeah,
said it.
like
Like
what
the
I
most
want,
precious
what I
With
want
moment.
to,
the dad sitting there with the headset on,
Boy,
yeah,
what?
watching everything.
that's sacred. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you could maybe capture like certain moments afterwards. But it's funny because, you know, somebody I know always brings up the fact that like, dang, like it's crazy we can't just automatically remember everything anyways. We don't have eidetic memory. Like if we had eidetic memory,
A lot
would
of
that
it.
be even necessary?
Yeah.
You know?
No.
Yeah, but at the same time, it still is creating a different experience of it. So it's like, is all the technology supposed to be purely because we can't do something, or is it always supposed to enhance like something, or could it just serve as a different way to experience relatively the same thing?
Well, what I think about innovation in a general sense, I always think it is supposed to be to solve an existing problem. So that's my philosophy to innovation in technology. It's like, there's always some limitation that someone is identified, or some problem that someone has identified that they're like, oh, I want to tackle. Just like even with the what's the name of that thing that you had said?
What thing?
Spectrometer?
The EEG?
Nah,
No.
the spec.
Oh, the stereoscope.
Yeah,
Stereoscope.
Yeah.
Yes, the
See,
stereo.
we.
Let's
I
not get
remember. I remember
yeah,
you.
let's not get lost in the scientific sauce. You
the
know, but yeah, the
the
Yeah.
stereoscope.
stereoscope.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so even with the stereoscope, like the problem was we have this 2D image, but we don't have the 3D image. Like
Hmm.
the problem, that was the problem. So that's what he tackled.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, something you want to add into that?
Nah, I mean, it's just like how she was saying, like you kind of do want to just solve a problem. Just like I was saying, we had identical memory, then capturing all these moments wouldn't mean as much.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? If we can literally remember every last second of our lives. And that's also why I envy a lot of those people that can. It's like, bro, if you could just remember any last thing, it's like, why study? Why, you know what I'm saying? It just unlocks so many doors for you. You can just remember every last thing. So I mean, yeah, like,
But then that means like even the games that we're playing, like what's the purpose of those?
well, I think that's more of an experience and something new kind of thing. Like if you've never been to outer space,
Or if you ain't got the balls to go walk a beam yourself.
not the ball.
I'm
This
saying,
guy.
or the guts. Let's
No,
keep it let's
let's
keep
keep
it
it
gender
gender
neutral.
neutral.
Yeah, you know, the guts to go walk a beam, but you really want to experience it, but you're not really gonna do it
Yeah,
like that, then
gotta put
yeah.
your big girl panties on.
Right,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
Then okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, but I think that's like always what's in the back of my head. Like, you know, like the dilemma between the actual use of a lot of it, because really we're already designed to be able to experience these things to the highest capacity, you know? So that's just a thought. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? It's just a thought. Um, seems like we've covered a lot. You know, we've covered a lot of the
Yeah.
science. You know, we got into the sensors. You know, which is another thing. It's just like now they getting all these readings of me. You know, what are y'all doing with this data? You know, I don't know. I feel like AR VR does indeed create a lot of like dystopian situations though. That's what's funny too. It's like because I'm not here to talk about all this to completely sell anybody on any of this. You know, I'm just wanting to really just think out loud about some of this stuff. So like, you know, because I could definitely see it going crazy. I mean, it's or you know, like get ugly if everybody's walking around with headsets all at once. You know, like who's actually monitoring the reality? You feel me? But I mean, at the
But
same,
yeah.
you know, and it's just like, or even getting used to the fact that somebody got a headset on in this convo. Like, do I look at you a little different? I mean, right now we have everybody got phones on them, you know, and it's like, okay, I kind of do. What's the word? Like, you definitely gonna feel some type of way. If somebody's just on the phone while they talking to you.
Yeah.
You know, like we in person and you're just scrolling or whatnot. Like, and it depends on the topic and stuff like that. But it's like you know intrinsically, like, okay, this is not the same conversation. Like, you know, you got to tell people to unplug. You got to tell people to put the phone down. You
Man,
know, and really engage
did you want to get into
as
it?
a human. You know, so then it's like, well, if you gonna already have this whole head, like you can't even play it off at that point.
Yeah.
Like with a phone, it's like, okay, I could check a notification here or there, but like, what you just gonna be? Hold on, right quick, bro. My fault. All right, we good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think this is a good time to bring up the HCI and kind of like explaining what that is.
Okay.
So HCI stands for Human Computer Interactions. And basically, I'll just kind of start where it started. So in like 1983, there was a book that came out called The Psychology of Human Computer Interactions. And basically, the authors were um, taking like psychology assumptions and methods and applying it to how we design computers. So this is like a field of research. It's interdisciplinary. It's like converging the social sciences, humanities with computer science. Um, so just like you were saying with like how do I look at this person that now is engaging with this computer but also supposed to be engaging with their reality around them. They kind of like go into those concepts in this field of study. And I think I think there's kind of like different theories, and also depends on the generation of people and like where we are as a society. Because for instance, like I was in a meeting with a professor, and he was kind of talking about like what he expects in meetings and what he thinks is socially acceptable and what's not. So like he was talking about taking notes on your phone. He was like, well, I'd rather you have a notepad and pen than for me to see you taking notes on your phone, because I feel like you're not paying attention to me. That's just like, that's just what I feel is what's going on.
Yeah.
Even though I'm literally using my notes app on my phone as much as I would just use a pen and paper. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, cause I mean, it's gonna be funny, cause like you know how like you know you can go to a restaurant and they be like no shoes, no shirts, no service, right? Or like you said now, like or at least back in like middle school and high school, you know, it'd be like no phones, right? And so like now it's gonna be like a long list of items that you can't use. No phones, no headsets, no white, no watches,
Yeah, no Apple Watch.
no wearable tech, no this, no that, and then like every teacher is gonna have a different like things that they don't like or they're cool with. Oh, nah, like this teacher, he like iPads, so he cool with iPads. Well, my teacher, she don't care. You could really just record the whole conversation and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, I think it does turn, like you said, into a whole social science or like a social experiment. It's not really an experiment, but it is a social science because it's just like socially, how are we now going to interact with this presence of these devices?
Yeah, I feel like a big thing that I'm even starting to notice is the table manners. Like we were kind of talking about,
Mm,
like the younger generation really has to be like stopped and educated on what's going on as far as how to even start a conversation, keep a conversation going,
mm-hmm.
the importance of eye contact, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of these kids just went through the pandemic where it was like, man, I don't have to look at you. I can, look on my phone and do what I need to do on my phone. And
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, that was school. That was
Mm-hmm.
whatever I was trying to do to be productive anyway. So now they look at it as, okay, well, I can just be on this almost 24/7. And that's the danger that I feel like we're kind of getting to with society where like if they don't have home training, like really like trained to know how to use this stuff, then they could just end up, kind of lost in the sauce where they're allowing certain stimuli to take over them instead of having the discipline to be like, all right, this is the time to put the phone down
Mm-hmm.
and this is the time to pick the phone up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like you said, like eye contact, the importance of that type of energy exchange. Because that was something that we was raised on, right? Like, and we know if we go deeper into it, like people know that okay, that's the windows into the soul, and it's a real spiritual thing to make eye contact. So now it's like, well, if you got on this headset, I already know you disconnected. But then it also made me think like, what type of interaction would it mean for two headsets to make eye contact? And would you value, yeah, like would you value that interaction more? Like if I'm a headset wearer, I guess that's probably gonna be a word, or that's probably gonna be a thing. Like okay, like I'm, dang, I just thought of a whole new concept that could take me off because I'm gonna bring that up in a second. But yeah, like just knowing the value of the what you call it, of everything that keeps you grounded and plugged in into this reality. Like you said, the children don't really know, the value of these things because they're not experiencing it, they're not interacting with it, and they're literally sucked and warped into a whole nother reality that's playing by a different set of rules. I even remember learning or seeing somewhere where like I can't remember the ages in which you learn how to talk, whatever ages,
Around like 1,
to
like
3 or something like that, whatever.
yeah, something like that. Some children, if you like start talking before you're 1,
Mm-hmm.
it's a little like, oh, you're a little advanced. They say.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, because like when the pandemic hit and we was people was wearing the mask, apparently children learn how to like speak not only through hearing but through watching your mouth and the type of formations you're using. So when everybody's walking around with mask on, there's like a little section of children who have been slower to develop their language skills because they weren't able to see your mouth. And so now it's like you said, it's a lot of these, and that's really not technology, but that is something to be mindful of is what was the value of making eye contact versus if you got a parent who's more gung-ho, they might be 50-50 with their VR and all their gadgets. How does that affect the child's development and growth?
Yeah.
But I think, these are definitely some interesting things to think about, because at the end of the day, the children, the youth, they the ones that's going to create, the next reality. So it's like we're also setting up the stage for whatever they going to do with it. too. So I always want to keep that in mind. And the thing I was thinking of, that I didn't want to get too off topic is like I feel like it could even turn into a thing with a lot of this tech where it's like you like how can I explain it? Like it might turn into labels as far as like, all right, are you the type of person that's always on like let's just say a headset, for example, right?
Mm.
Like, are you the person that wears it 0% of the time or doesn't even have one? Are you a 50-50 person? Or are you a 100%
Oh,
person?
like how you be off the grid or helmet
Yeah,
on.
yeah, like you a helmet
Like
head
a
or
said
you know what
chrome
I'm
dome.
saying? You
Not
just a
chrome though.
you're not a chrome dome. Hey man, the jokes that's gonna come from this shit is gonna be elite, you know. And that's a whole nother thing, like what social media will look like. But we don't want to open up too many different cans of worms because this is gonna be deep. You feel me? You know,
Mhm.
especially when again, like our generation is really where experiencing all of this stuff get implemented. You know, our
Yeah.
parents, they literally, I guess, had pagers and beepers and stuff. We're talking about just like, I guess, at this point, the fact that it's part of, I guess, just our life, because we're no longer children.
Yeah.
We're not growing up with these things, but we're watching it evolve rapidly, and we're in a space where we can kind of keep up with it. Like our parents, when they grew up with none of this stuff, then
Yeah.
now they're just turned off or they see it all as pretty optional. Versus us, it's like, no, we know this is pretty integrated and stuff like that. And it's like, there's just so many elements
Yeah, and I
to this
feel
thing.
like, not to cut you off,
No, you good.
but like I definitely feel like we're not only the generation that's getting it integrated, we're the policy makers. We're the ones that,
Talk to him.
just like how people protest for civil rights and all these other things, we're gonna be the ones that have to protest and fight for the right to privacy, to the right to not only be saying we shouldn't have to be forced into this. We should be able to opt out. You know what I'm saying? We should all still value, like we're kind of talking about, the human interaction, the human to human interaction, not just
Mm-hmm.
saying everything got to be a human computer interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And the right to your own data.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? There's so many different rights and so many different laws that are now going to come up. And it's like if nobody speaks up, I promise you the people making money off of it are gonna make a money decision. You know what I'm saying? So we gotta make sure, just like how people gotta be advocates for women's rights, because they try and legislate women's bodies. You gotta
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you also
And their power. The power.
but
Yeah.
yeah, you gotta make sure you have advocates to make sure that we're not just gonna brainwash or dilute the next generation
Mm-hmm.
and set them up for failure. So I feel like that's a big concept.
Yeah. Because we definitely, you know, and honestly, again, I always think like nothing's new under the sun. Like you talk to some old heads and they be like, bro, this the same thing that's been going on. Like, now, in the future it'll be you letting a headset raise your child. Right now, is it you letting that phone raise your child? Back then it was did you let the mall raise your child? You know?
The mall is a crazy concept.
Or the TV. So it's not too new of a concept. It's not too scary of a reality, having something because at the end of the day, like nobody's perfect. Everybody's gonna find something to distract them. You feel me? Even before all of these gadgets was mainstream, folks was, doing drugs or whatever to, that was their vice. Am I even setting it up to be it? Like that's the only thing about it is that it's not just a vice. Like it wouldn't be just a vice. It could equally be like you said, oh, I'm actually taking notes. I'm actually recording this to create, beneficial memories. Um, and that's just really what makes it tricky is that it's multifunctional. I think I read somewhere where they was like, the issue of the devices isn't even that it's necessarily harmful. It's that you, like what he said. He said the work machine is also the porn machine. You know, like you could watch porn on your phone. You know, hope that's not like a bad word to be using or whatever.
I think you
But
can say pornography.
yeah, I don't know. I don't give too much of a fuck. But yeah,
Word.
yeah, you know. But the work machine is also the porn machine. You know, it's like you said, like the dark web, and I guess the opposite is the light web. I don't know, but it's all in one. So you can't necessarily just cancel it out or dictate it to be one or the other. And then that just creates like a whole matrix of situations as to where how it's going to be applied, how am I supposed to view you, and everything in between. So, yeah.
Yeah. What makes me think about, like, when you were bringing up vices and drugs and things of that nature, it's like what we have seen with like the recreational drugs or something like that is whether it's good or bad depends on the individual's relationship with the drug.
Mm-hmm.
So just like with the technology, it'll be, what is this person's relationship with their phone? What is this person's relationship with their VR
Mm-hmm.
headset? Um, like, is this something that every time you get sad, you go into?
Right.
Then you're going to
Yeah.
associate it with, your sadness or your sorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Or your therapy. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could turn into the only time. If that's the only time you happy is when you turn on that headset, like you gotta clock out, get all the way home, and put on the headset just to feel like, you know what I'm saying, you finally have some type of freedom. That's dangerous. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. It get real psychological real quick. There's a lot of psychology and social science embedded in it, you know. And again, I think it's not even like that same person would probably also still find another outlet to do the same thing. So it's not like, like they're not like, okay, yeah, this person abuses the AR headset, but that ain't no different than this person abusing the food, like you just said. So, these are just things we have to be mindful of. I think, like you said, because we're so immersed into it all the way, we have to be like the policymakers and, try to be the authority over what these machines are doing. That's why I think it's important to know not only, you know, uh, the science of it, like you said, all of these different sensors. I think that was powerful. To know, okay, nigga, they gonna know your brain waves, they gonna know your heartbeat, your heart rate, and they gonna know your muscle contractions and stuff. And that's just and the eye tracks. They tracking your eyes, and that's just based on the technology right now today.
yeah, I was
You
gonna say
know,
it's a bunch of different senses they could get into.
yeah. So they gonna, or not they, but the device itself, the technology itself can monitor these things, or it's going to interact with these things. But then you also got the psychology of everything and how it's inducing you, or just the type of relationship you are establishing with these technologies, these things, things to be mindful of.
Yeah. That made me think about, like, I heard someone say that kind of like this next generation coming up, Gen Z or whatever, is kind of experiencing having more fear or doubt about being perceived by others. I mean, I think that's a developmental type of thing for humans anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that is also, encompassed with like social media and them seeing how much data is actually taken from their lives. Just like, oh, you could be recorded just by being at the grocery store or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And then like, you've gone viral, even though you didn't even make that recording. Like somebody else just caught you on while you was lacking or whatever it was. So
Not lacking.
No, for real though.
Not you out here lacking.
so as it comes to like, oh, creating your personas in the metaverse or you just know online and stuff like that, I think that is like what may push them to want to engage in that, because they can create their own identities without just being perceived in all these different ways and taking all these different data points from you in this and outside of reality, out in reality.
Yeah, and I think like little stuff like that is why we have to stay connected with the younger generations, because one, you can pretty much do that now. Like you can, if you really just focus on yourself, you can create whoever you want to be. Just like I tell people now I go by score. It's like, now you got people that ain't gonna go for that. Boy, I named you this, then what I'm gonna call, you know what I'm saying? But you can always create whoever you want to be, even in this reality. And I think that's the whole point, is like, it's not really nothing new. But what's also interesting is funny is like, okay, well, like, it's funny to me how if you deal with like, our parents, but really our grandparents' generation of people, how convicted and how much they don't give a fuck. Like, it's actually crazy. It's like I'm even a little more mindful of like how I'm perceived, and it's just funny how like they don't care. They have a strong conviction about what
Bro.
it is. It could be the wrongest, dumbest thing ever, but like they stand at 10
10 at
toes.
20 if they had them.
Right. You feel me? 10 plus, all 10 from they animals and they pets. Like they
Yeah.
real deal behind it. And I think it's a lot of wisdom in that, even though, you might want to look at them as like, okay, y'all behind on X, Y, and Z. But then at the same time, it's like y'all really ahead of the curve when it comes to ABC.
Yeah. And I definitely see that specifically with like even the clubs. It's like, bro, I be hating that because I love to dance and I love to be in the atmosphere where everybody's dancing. You have dance battles, but it's like now section culture done kind of took over because it's like everybody just want to look cool instead of actually having the fun. So I mean, I feel like that kind of goes back to your point as far as like, yeah, I'm gonna just be me in this moment. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Even if my dance don't look good, even if I ain't got the best rhythm or whatever.
I mean, don't go out bad.
I mean, you know what I'm
Can't
saying?
can't go out bad.
You
They
only
all
got,
recording.
but you only see. You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
Like,
you never know who's watching. You know what I'm saying?
man, I don't never even really care about that type of stuff for real. So I
And I
mean,
and I respect that.
that's really
Be
like I
you.
really love that from the older generation. I hope we can get more of that into the younger generation and our generation. Cause I do feel like there's a lot of stuff that people be wanting to do, and it's like, oh nah, I'm too scared
Yeah.
of being, you know what I'm saying, exposed or however y'all want to look at that. Just like
But what's
yeah.
interesting is like, dang, so because really this whole being paranoid from like being recorded and stuff is coming literally just from like social media videos, right? Which is two dimensional. How much more paranoia is gonna come when it was like an immersive reality situation that you're now paranoid of? You know, I feel like that's, like I said, that's a whole nother like can of worms. As far as like psychology, the science behind it. What about these two-dimensional images, or because like what you call it? Comparing yourself to what the world is kind of showing you to be did not start with us, our generation. It didn't
Mhm.
start with, scrolling the TL. Before that, it was just whatever was on the television, and, they wasn't even always watching the television as much as we was, but yet the concept still existed. And, I guess if we was to figure out the charts and stuff of how many people are now more paranoid and stuff, there is some relation between the amount of screen time and, you know, that level of paranoia. But now it's taking us into another dimension of it, is how plugged in are your senses. Like, is it just the sight? Like, how does, if your sight, sound, and touch is dealing with all of these comparisons, how much does that jack up that paranoia meter? You
Yeah,
know?
because even like you're touching on, all of our five senses were developed to help us stay alive in nature. So when
Mm,
we heard something ruffling in the bushes or whatever, we had to have enough of our five senses plugged in to know whether that's a fight or flight response or a nothing response. You know what I'm saying? We gotta know if that's a snake or if that's a chipmunk or whatever. So that's the level that the paranoia is like, bruh. I'm paranoid off of stuff that don't even make no sense. You know what I'm saying? Being
mm-hmm.
afraid of heights is one thing, but being afraid of being recorded, it's like, bro, that's kind of abnormal. You know what I'm saying? And that's not something that we were developed to even really interact with. So just like, yeah, like, and bringing it home to like what
Mm,
you started out with, talking about how the brain can't distinguish between the stimuli to know whether it's real or not.
dang.
You know what I'm saying? That's really
Yeah.
like the full circle moment of it. It's like you done experienced all these different things as far as your brain assumes you experienced it, but in real life, that's having the psychological and all these different effects to you.
Yeah, I was thinking like when I said that earlier, like neurologically about the brain. However, the brain is not the mind. So like,
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
so
That's
the
another,
mind,
okay.
obviously, when I when I get in my head, like if I get in the headset, my brain is thinking all taking in all this sensory data, and I might have these like physiological effects that come up after that, but like still in my mind I know I'm in my headset.
Mm-hmm.
Like I because I've had these different experiences beforehand that inform my decisions going forward and the experiences that I'm having at that time. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that definitely goes back to our being grounded in this reality point. Because
Mm,
just like we were saying with the kids that never seen people mouths, it's like if you've never really seen reality to understand how to distinguish it from this headset, you may not know what's real and what's fake. Because like just how you were saying, when you're in the headset, no matter how real it gets, you can take it off and be like, whew, that felt super real. I felt, you know what I'm saying? All this other stuff. Okay, let me go back to my regular life. You know what I'm saying? Let me go back to knowing like this is the reality I'm really in. But it's
mm-hmm.
almost like you don't know what's a dream and what's not if you have never been able to be very distinct and very structured in understanding what's real and what's not.
Right, yeah.
Because in this reality, mind is all.
Right.
Yeah.
Shit, I would argue all realities.
Yeah.
Because in the
Yeah.
digital realm, in
Yeah.
this metaverse, which I do want to define what a metaverse is, because I always thought it was like Facebook's brand. But
Mm.
apparently, metaverse is actually just the virtual realities themselves.
Yeah.
Like any headset or any device that allows you to experience the virtual reality, the augmented, the mixed, the immersive, all of those beautiful words. Anytime you're stepping into a fully immersive digital realm, you are now in a metaverse.
Yeah.
And so I think in any of these realms, this material reality, you could be in the spiritual reality, you could be in a digital, you could be a mix of all three. It's all mental.
Right.
It's all your mind, because your mind is what allows you to not only perceive it but then dictate, the next experience.
Yeah. So one like cool thing that I did get to experience. So we were I participated in a pitch competition with the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, and they were basically trying to integrate the metaverse with Meta, like they call them Meta Scholars or whatever, um, into this in-person event. So they had their Meta Scholars, it was like 6 people or whatever, who joined in with us in virtual reality. Like
Mhm.
they were on they were, for us, they're on the projector screen in this fake conference room with these digital avatars and talking to us. And like as I'm sitting there, I'm like not paying attention to them. Like really, like I'm just, in person, I'm focused on the people that are right in front of me.
Mhm.
And for most of everyone, like we're just, we're discussing between ourselves, kind of almost ignoring them.
Mhm.
But then they start
As you should.
talking. But then they start talking over the
Mhm.
intercom. We're like, oh, these are real people.
Yeah.
Like these are real people. These are like they're introducing ideas or introducing concepts. They, like they have a mind. It's not like, oh, these are AI behind it. And you could tell based off of how they're able to interact with us, and the fact that AI hasn't gotten to the point where, not to say that they can't imitate a human, but I just feel like you don't get that same feeling, or you don't get that same intuitive feeling that
Mhm.
this person is a real person or not with an AI. And that's what I feel like I felt or I experienced with seeing these people in the metaverse, but understanding that these are human minds and not an illusion. Yeah.
I think the other thing is like to your point. So you saying when you at it was a conference?
It was like an innovation challenge.
Okay.
So
So
like it did.
y'all
We were in
all
groups
linked
and
up.
talking. Yeah.
Y'all all linked up, right?
Yeah.
And then, but because what they were contributing was valuable,
Right.
then it's like, oh damn, like even though you're not physically here, I need to be paying attention to you just as much as anybody else that is physically here. I think the opposite is also interesting because it's like, well, if you are physically here, but you ain't contributing much. You feel me?
Yeah.
It's like I probably need to gauge more attention, even if it was an AI. You know what I'm saying? Like what they call them NPCs now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or non-factors, because there's always been words for people who's like, like yeah, sheep or whatever, and it's just like, I think it's almost like shit. You might just want to blend all of it in as one anyway. It's like, all right, whatever mind, I guess, or whatever intelligence is actually contributing the most is what I'm actually like, interact with or pay the most attention to because it's like it's really no difference.
Yeah.
At a certain point. Like what's the difference between if I'm watching this three-dimensional entity and I can't even tell if this is a real person or not? What does it matter if I'm really still interacting with like I'm only interact with them based on what they're contributing to me anyways. If you go something as simple as okay, you want to go on a trip and they're gonna generate the whole trip for you, like a whole itinerary would woo. I don't care if it's a human or not doing that. You know what I'm saying? So that's just kind of what I thought of as far as
Yeah.
like discerning and navigating through it.
I think that one of the main things that I guess was one of the distinguishable things was definitely like empathy, feelings, like the jokes that they would make. Like
Wait, when you're saying they,
I'm
you
talking
talking
about the
about the
people.
real humans
Yeah, I'm talking about the real humans. Yeah.
who have these avatars
Yeah.
representing them.
Yeah.
Got you.
So, I mean, not to say that like AI can't get to that place, or there's none that are advanced in that way, but I feel like that's what set the experience apart, was like, oh yeah, these people are not experiencing the same exact thing as I am, but from what they are articulating, I can tell that there is more emotion behind it, and that's not what I experience with AI.
Yeah, and even like you were saying, I kind of see another element where I do care about a human planning the trip to a certain extent because that's when you start getting into the nuances of saying I want to go to a place. If you like, oh, for instance, put a list of clubs. It's
Mm-hmm.
like if you put a list of clubs from an AI, it's like they just gonna rate it whatever the Yelp rating is or whatever, you know what I'm saying, digital content they can get. But an actual human can be like, oh nah, this club be dead, or they might be a local, so they know the times that people are actually doing stuff that's just not online yet, you know what I'm saying? Or these little
They
these
got discriminated against because
yeah,
that's
like
why we as black people look for other black people. Like I was gonna say, like that's why as black people we look for other black people who have went and traveled to these different places that might be outside of our realm, because it's like, we want to know what that experience is like as a black human being. Like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because even knowing like if you go to a Spanish speaking country, it's like they not all the same. Some of them there's a bunch of people that speak English just because there's so many tourists. And other times it's like, bro, if you don't know Spanish, you might not survive. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so it's different levels to like actually using this and saying that it's just as good as a human. It's like there's certain things you're gonna be better at humans at, and then there's other things where it's like there is a reason why humans only have humans for all this time. Like we adapted to be around humans and we kind of structured society around having human to human interactions.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think that is the flip side too. Is like there is gonna always be a part of me that's like, I want you physically here, and I want you to take off that headset. You know what I'm saying? Like even like we've been sitting here talking. Like if y'all was like halfway on y'all phone, I'm gonna be offended. You know what I'm saying? Like we was all given these suits, these vessels, for a good reason. Use them. You know, it's all like you said, it's nuance. Um, but I definitely like if you couldn't make the conference physically or whatnot, okay, you lose a couple points. It's okay. We still gonna prioritize you, but like after the people that's like kind of physically here, at least I assess it. Now if like I said, if I'm in a room,
because they flew us out, they gave us food,
yeah, because there's still value to it. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I guess the last thing I think of when it comes to AR VR, y'all mentioned um like did we cover all of the different like applications that it could be used for? I feel like
we covered some. Oh, sorry. We covered some. We didn't cover education.
yeah, we didn't really get into education. I know y'all just talked about like going like traveling.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're gonna like allow people to travel and experience anywhere in the world. You know, um, yeah, let's talk about some of the applications. We've kind of covered the whole scary part of it, and oh my God, like
Yeah.
people are gonna be like tripping off into that reality versus this reality. So what are like all the different ways in which it could transform and enhance us?
Did you want to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So like I was just talking about education. Um, so like one of the projects that we had, that I did with, it was like a Google challenge or whatever, and I was the UX designer, so user experience designer on that project.
What is user experience?
Yeah, for those who might not know.
Software people around.
I was gonna let it ride for
So user experience is basically our interactions with different computer interfaces. So whether that's the app on your phone or a website on your laptop or app on your what's called iPad, or VR headset. So
right.
yeah, so like what those interactions look like. So like if you need to go through a certain onboarding journey to figure out how to use the application, they think about those things. They think about, hey, like what color should we use, what buttons should we add,
Right.
like just enhancing that interaction and like exploring and researching what that interaction is for people.
Yeah, because like if you've ever I can't think of any real examples, but like if you've ever been let's say on a website that lagged a lot,
Mhm.
right? You're probably not going to keep going back to that website
Yeah.
because that was poor experience.
Yep.
Or even at this point, if you log in to a website on your phone and for some reason it's like only set up to be on a desktop computer
Yep.
that's
and
Yep.
it
Yep.
doesn't,
Yep.
weird.
you know what I'm saying,
Mhm.
conform to the fact that you're on a phone. It's like, this experience is terrible, I'm never going back to it.
Right. Right.
Or I can't find everything for some reason, the settings isn't where I expected it to be, you know. Like, even like one thing I peeped, and this is kind of a little off topic, but like when I was on Twitter or X, whatever, Twitter,
Mhm.
like now it's like the log out button to log out of Twitter, it's like 8 different like steps. Like, you go into settings, then you got to go here and then here and then here and then here, or it's like 7 layers deep or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, y'all trying to keep me trapped in this thing, which is a whole nother conversation. But the whole point is, that's like what user
Mhm.
experience and user interaction is. It's like, how do I, as the individual using this thing, feel when, or how do I think and feel when I'm using it? And so user experience and user interaction is basically trying to make that as seamless as possible, trying to make it as, a smooth little situation for you.
Yeah. Yep. So I was UX designer on that project, and basically we were trying to figure out how could we use like students' qualities and apply it to them getting a job or get experience later on. So one of the concepts that we came up with was called Shadow Quest, and it was supposed to be like an immersive VR experience where you can get real-time training and you can also get conferences. So it's like, go to conferences. So it's like there's the training aspect of it, and then there's the kind of like metaverse conferencing aspect of it, where and I'll show y'all. I'm gonna show y'all the images.
All right.
Um, so that's what it looks like. So we didn't end up going with this idea because it was like voted on by a panel of people, and we went with another idea. So this is like literally basic what it would kind of look like. And we were thinking about, like nursing majors. So that's kind of what that prototype is supposed to represent. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you could keep, it's like three slides. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, I'm seeing.
Um, so because one of the things that we saw when we did our research is that people were performing better when they went through these VR trainings opposed to the control group, which was, doing the regular training on the laptop or computer or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
They performed a lot better. It was like 60% better compared to the 40% of the other group.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we also, like when we did our research, we got because we conducted interviews. That's a part of like the user experience research journey or whatever process. You do real interviews with real people about like what their problem is, why is this, what is your problem with what you're trying to achieve. And um, people were saying that they lacked, it was like, what was it, about like 60% said that they lacked real world experience to be able to apply for these internships or apply for these early career jobs and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
um, so that's why we ended up going with the VR simulation, because it allowed you to get that hands-on experience as if you were almost there, for one. But also you have more autonomy over your data, so you were able to collect skills basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is a good benefit, is just being able to quickly, from your own home, experience certain things. I don't know if it's considered real world experience now,
Yeah.
but I think it'll definitely hold up a lot when it's like, well, I haven't had real world, but I've had virtual world
Nah, it'll definitely be a very powerful thing from various applications, but the easiest thing that I know a lot of people will get is the flight simulations. So like the flight simulation is like a very real thing that pilots have to go through. You know, you have to log so many hours of flight simulations to even get behind a plane. And it's like that's an excellent way to make sure, you know, ain't no lives are at risk, but you're still getting as close to real world training as you can. But even when you start to get into like kind of like how you were saying the medical applications, when you get into complex surgeries or even just trying to study the human body and all these different concepts that are, you know, fairly deep, and if you aren't actually at Princeton or have the money to afford the top of the line education, it's like now you just behind, you know what I'm saying? So that's really closing the gap between the information, you know what I mean? And even we could really take it in a lot of different ways. Even like they have a boxing game in the Oculus. So like you can get a workout in while you in there while also getting better with your techniques and understanding that like even they have a yeah, it's pretty fun because they even have like a person like a little AI avatar or whatever that kind of coaches you through and tells you, okay, this is where you need to put your hands, this is where you need to put your feet. You know, you got to switch. So now you're doing a different, instead of, I mean, you know, the whole Southpaw thing. I don't know how deep they want to go with that, which is basically you switching from having your left hand and having this orientation to now switching to your right hand. You know, your feet kind of change with it too. But yeah, it's all of these different applications. We've already gotten into the space stuff and even with cooking, you know, it's so many different applications to it to the point where even when you shooting pool, like now it can show you the exact angle you need to be hitting it at to get the spin you want. So it's really like the applications are limitless, but I think the education aspect is going to be the biggest thing to close the gap because now it's like there's almost no excuse. Like even kids in Africa, yeah, like I'm just saying, like it's so many different. Okay, I'll let you get into your story. She always wants some kids.
So, the accelerator I went to, Harvard Accelerator, one of the girls, Rose, she basically was trying to tackle the problem that they don't have like science labs. They don't have readily accessible science labs in her country, Tanzania. So she went with the VR environment, and making VR lessons for like chemistry labs, biology labs, things of that nature. And I thought that was really cool because it's like she's definitely increasing the accessibility aspect of things for, you know, a place that doesn't have the resources or is not getting the resources and funding investments that the rest of, you know, not the rest of the world, but other places are getting, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, and that's why I like that we kind of started capturing a lot of actual applications because I guess for me, I'm gonna say me personally, I'm still increasing my awareness of like how much, you know, being raised in America will afford it to have versus a lot of the barriers, financial barriers, and infrastructure barriers that, you know, really a majority of the world has. You know, like a lot of people don't have these schools, or even once you get into more specialized topics, then there's only certain locations for those specialized schools. And essentially, this technology sounds like it could be a wonderful bridge, especially since we've already covered the fact that the brain don't even know the difference between what's considered real world and virtual world. You know, and we even know, you know, like once you're exposed to the concept, you're exposed to the concept. You know, it's like, okay, yeah, I can kind of see that. I can kind of picture that. You know, everything's mental. Woo. You know, and I just think like, yeah, I think it definitely will serve as a bridge. You know, we're talking education, talking, a lot of the medical applications, even like allowing us to maybe handle certain dangerous situations as well. You don't have to put an actual human in the situation. You can just try to simulate, through the augmentation, or even allow, once you add robots into it, I'm kind of, doing a lot of conversion now, but you can maybe handle things and interact with things from a distance with this AR and this VR.
Yeah. That's a digital twin concept.
Okay, so you wanna? I don't know. You wanna?
I didn't want to go to dinner. I didn't want to.
Not this time. We don't get
no.
too much sauce. You feel me? But I think we've covered a good amount. You know, this ain't gonna be the last time we talk about AR and VR.
For sure.
But we did want to just kind of get into the beginning. Get our feet wet.
Oh, sorry.
Like I said, we brought on one of our bona fide crew members. Definitely gonna be a familiar face in Micaiah. So we appreciate you hopping in. And we just flipping the switch. We exploring the landscape. And we'll see y'all in the next episode. Peace.
Bye. That was 2 hours.